Hello and welcome to the program. It's good to know you are there with us. I am Imonia Marere. After a long delay, occasioned by several postponements, intrigues and controversies, the National Convention of the ruling party in Nigeria, the All Progressives Congress, APC, finally took place during the weekend in Abuja, the nation's capital. The convention was attended by about 7,485 delegates from all 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, in accordance with the party's constitution and, presumably, the provisions of the amended Electoral Act 2022. The convention produced a 46-member National Working Committee led by former Nasarawa State Governor and a serving Senator, Abdullahi Adamu, and, of course, 32 other non-working committee officials of the party. All the national and zonal offices of the party, except for a few, were filled by a consensus arrangement. A few had to be contested after some of the candidates refused to withdraw or step down for consensus candidates to emerge. Like the People's Democratic Convention last year, before it, it was the triumph of the president and the conclave of governors. They supplanted the free will of the party members by their choices and endorsement of candidates. Now, apart from the long delay and the almost endless wait by delegates who started thronging the Eagle Square venue as early as 9 a.m. on Saturday, a few other organizational glitches were noticeable. But at the end, the party was able to pull off the convention successfully. Doomsday predictions and purveyors were somewhat disappointed that the convention came off with the party still intact, at least for now. Some political pundits, observers, and even opposition elements had predicted and wished that the rancor generated within the party in the last 22 months would cause an implosion and break the party. But this convention is only the beginning of its journey towards the 2023 general elections. Will its new leadership be able to heal the deep wounds in the party? Does he have what it takes to once again wield together the disparate groups and interests that brought the APC into being? Can it manage the fierce contest that will play out during the presidential primary contest and still remain intact? Will the new National Working Committee command the respect of the many big men and women and strong forces in the party, given the manner of its emergence? A true and negotiated consensus arrangement. Does the party still have what it takes to retain power in 2023 amidst the social, economic, political, and security challenges the country has been going through under its watch? Well, these are the issues that we will be taking a look at on the program today. But for a start, let us take some soundbites from the convention itself to put us in a better state for the discussion.
We appreciate the right to hold different opinions and aspirations. However, such differences must not be to the detriment of the party. Recently, I had called to intervene in the leadership crisis, which was about to cause confusion in the party. Such internal disputes are common in young democracies such as ours, but we must avoid overheating the polity and not allow our differences to tear and frustrate the party.
Upon assumption of office, the committee embarked on a genuine and all-inclusive reconciliation process to give everyone a true sense of belonging. We should please bury our differences and collectively work for the interest and success of our party. The National Secretariat will henceforth be known as, addressed as Buhari House.
For almost 7 years now, APC administration at the federal, state and local levels have been battling night and day in order to enhance the livelihood of Nigerians through various policies, programs and projects. We need to renew our faith in our party and its leadership at all levels in order to herald a new dawn. We shall effect lasting reconciliations among our members, and we shall go into the next general election as a strong and united party.
This is from the National Convention of the APC. President Muhammadu Buhari, who of course is the leader of the party, and you had also the chairman of the Caretaker and Convention Planning Committee, Governor Mala Buni, and of course the newly elected national chairman of the party, who was picked by consensus and emerged by that consensus arrangement, Abdullahi Adamu, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, at the convention. All right, let's quickly go now to meet our guest analysts who are joining us physically and virtually. First, let's get to meet Dr. Michael Ogweze. Dr. Ogweze is a senior lecturer in the Department of Political Science at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Dr. Ogweze, thank you so much for finding time to join us.
You are very much welcome. Viewers, you are welcome to the...
Thank you so much. And right here in the studio, we are joined by Mr. Muhammad Saidu Esu. Mr. Esu is a former aspirant to the position of the national chairman of the APC itself. Thank you so much, Mr. Esu, for joining us. Thank you very much for having me. And we will be joined later on the program by Dr. Adamu Muhammad, who is also of the Department of Political Science at the Federal University in Gusau in Kebbi State. Dr. Ogweze, let's begin with you right there in Nsukka, from where you must have monitored the convention of the APC, the processes leading up to that convention and the convention itself. What would be your first comments, your first impressions of how it all went down?
Thank you very much. For anybody that witnessed the events prior to the convention itself, you will understand that people expected a lot of things to take place. And I must say that the president wading into the affairs of the party indeed changed a number of things that would have happened, at least for now. I must say that the impression I got before and during the convention wasn't much palatable, I must confess, because that's what is not expected of a political party that is in power. Not that because there are political parties in power with enormous resources at their disposal, convolution of interest will always come, which will result in a counter-reaction from members. But one had expected that as a political party that has been in power for almost 7 years, and that has been in existence for over 8 years, one ought to have expected that they should have learned from the things that has been happening in this country, which I don't think there is any lesson that one is living with the APC from what we have been getting in other political parties, including PDP, while they were in power.
So in your view, the party's 8 years of existence has not rubbed off on the organizational skills of the party and how it went about conducting this convention?
Not at all. It has not. And if you engage APC members outside camera and outside official communication, they will tell you what the problems are. But whenever they come up, they will always tell you how things are perfect, how they have done it better than other political parties. we continue to talk about imposition of candidates and allowing internal democracy to run in our political parties, which APC promised when they were campaigning for power while they were in opposition in 2014 prior to 2015 and 2015 thereafter. Unfortunately, what we are seeing is still the same thing that has characterized the political parties in Nigeria, including PDP. In fact, if it is not even getting worse, I will not say it is improving, because that's exactly what we are seeing. You discover how people were made to step down. I tell you, when you get, they will always tell you that they stepped down because Mr. President intervened because they love the party more than anything. But technically, they were indeed forced to step down. That is not how to allow internal democracy to thrive in a party. Allow people to, and I think that was what the National Assembly had in mind when they were trying to remove indirect primary, remove consensus in the Electoral Act. And this is to forestall this kind of development. But, you know, a lot of things came up and such issue had to be removed for the kind of thing we are seeing to carry on. So we are seeing political parties in Nigeria being just the same thing, if not worse than others.
All right, Dr. Ogweze, Mr. Seidu Esu is a member of the APC and is right here with us, and I'm sure he has heard everything you have said. Mr. Esu, as a member of the party, did you come away from the National Convention feeling satisfied that your party has done better than it should have done? Given the fact that it's been in power for 7 years, it's been in existence for over 8 years.
Yes, thank you very much. I think Nigerians and 41 million registered members of party should know that we have improved tremendously by our staying to the power for 7 years, and was some us-trading that has characterized our convention for the last 2 months. With this convention, the doomsayers have been put to shame, because some people think that after this convention or during the convention we must have some people walked away from the convention ground and what have you. But if you look at it now, we get it right, because the doctor says something about president intervention in the party activities, and it has really helped. And that's why we are on this stage now, that we did this convention successfully, even though we are going to another set of elections, which is primaries elections that are coming up. But and I would like to appreciate the doctor again by saying something that we must give a political party internal democracy process must improve, so that people should know that they are not forcefully or willing to withdraw. But actually, on our own case, which the chairmanship aspirant emerged, if you are aware that Mr. President have some discussion with the aspirant on Wednesday, but it took up to 12 a.m. of Friday before the news broke out that the aspirants have withdrawn. Even when we met with Mr. President, and Mr. President told us that actually after due consultation and what have you, they have arrived at distinguished Senator Abla Adamu as our new national chairman. The aspirant request that from Mr. President that they should allow the candidate to go and speak to themselves, so that they can understand the basic things and the base, so that we can come out without each and every one of us hurt in the process. And that is allowed. And if you look at it from Thursday, Friday, up till 12 a.m. of Saturday, when the convention kickstart officially, you know that we've been having series of meetings. And at the end of the day, we've arrived at conclusion that distinguished Senator Abla Adamu should be our next national chairman. And you've seen the covering note written by our Minister of Special Duty, who is one of the aspirants too, that all the aspirants have agreed to that. Now, going forward, I think we need to really understand our political system and the base. He said something about both political parties to allow some internal democracy to take place. Both PDP and APC, they try to arrive at consensus on their convention, just to fears of some explosion of some issues. But if we are going to these primaries election that are coming, I think it won't be possible in some other climes because of interest, and people have invested a lot in their campaigns. If consensus should be the base for our choosing an aspirant, why would it allow some aspirant to go for campaigns and spend huge resources? The pointer, the leaders of the party and the system should be able to tell aspirants that no, we are trying to streamline some things down so that you XYZ should step aside so that one person will emerge, so that you know you are not spending huge resources on campaigning, on doing a lot of things again. You know that the party have already arrived at some consensus level. Now, if you look at what's happened on our convention, I think it's a successful one, because the issue that Mr. President waded in has whittled down a lot of issues that will erupt in that process. Now, what are going to be the next lines of actions for other people who have stepped down for the race? Because we shouldn't have bikers. If you willingly to step down, like what we did, we willingly to step down. Now, what is going to be the next lines of action for other people that came to the stage? Some people were shedding tears. Some people who even came in out vehemently telling the whole world that they've not stepped down. Now, it shows that some people were forcibly shut down out of the race from their states and some other local levels of politics due to kind of allotting some slot or a unity list that has come up. What I'm trying to tell Nigerians now is both our political parties, let's not be so sentimental about issues now. We must build a strong internal democracy that people can really come and participate, and let's allow election to take place so that people will now know that this is my strength and these are my weakness in the elections. But when you said consensus, some people have the strength, but if you don't allow them to participate in the process, it will kill the spirit of that democracy that we are yearning for. And it will kill the spirit of what actually it takes to build a political system. Now, delegates came across from all the country with the anticipation and with the notion of mind that they have some people in mind to choose as their national chairman or other positions. But due to intervention of leaders of political party, and that's why in our political party we have what they call party supremacy. You know, those are the things that ingredient in the party supremacy, that the party requested you to do this and you must try and see how you can align with the party. But building democracy of our choice and building democracy that we feel it will make this country viable, we must allow and the entire nation will have interest to join the partisan politics that we are yearning for. Like young people now have participated in the process. Now they feel that, okay, Mohammed Etu has been cajoled to step. No, but people who have still interest to participate, but there will be fear of that consensus.
That's where I'm going to be stepping in, because there is a school of thought. There are those critics of the consensus option who think that it's become a tool for political oppression, for political dominance by those who have the resources and who have the power to do so. Party oligarchs, the governors, the president, and the big men and women in quote, in the party, who can always use their positions and their resources to repress and to oppress and dominate other members of the political party. Yeah, you just spoke earlier on about party membership of over 41 million. And then, of course, you had 7,000 plus delegates coming into Abuja in anticipation that they were going to come and vote. But at the end of the day, they didn't have the opportunity of expressing that. Is there a possibility that you may only have postponed the evil day and that there may be deep wounds within the party that needs to be healed?
Yes, you know, you are not far from the reality of times, because now people have to go back home and re-strategize. A lot of people that want to participate in the next election now have to look at how the parties are going with these arrangements. First and foremost, a lot of people that wants to campaign now, to the people that has the votes, the people that have the voting power to choose candidates, they are not going to those people again. They are going to reach out to powerful people in the corridor of power so that they will emerge consensus. And that's why people like me and other people were not too keen about this consensus thing. But it's now the basic thing that we have to do now in our convention so that we can move on successfully. But on subsequent elections that are coming up, we should advocate for that internal democracy so that people should feel the democracy that they want to participate in. Now, if you know you are a delegate or you are a card-carrying member of the party that you want to choose a candidate. At the end of the day, nobody will reach out to you to even campaign because he believes that you don't have the voting power to vote him in. Let him go to either governors, senators, and the party hierarchy and the president to maneuver his way out so that he can be candidate of the party. You can see that the vibe is no longer there. People will not have that interest about the whole thing. They will now say it's a selection process. And I don't want it to look like that. It should look like a competitive game that people should know that this is my strength and this is my weakness. So that it will give us a base that democracy is getting proper directions in this country. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Dr. Ogweze, let me turn to you. There are those who have said that the decision to adopt consensus was first and foremost to stabilize the party, and that at this point in time of a very fragile democracy, like many other democracies in the third world, that what is required is to stabilize the party, build party unity, before we talk of the fine tenets of democracy.
That's very good, and the kind of argument that you will see people continue to pursue when they are not ready to do the right thing. How many years shall we continue to build and stabilize these parties? Fine. Consensus is part of the agreement in order to avoid the possibility of explosion. Let's instead embark on selection instead of election. I tell you, the kind of system and scenario that we see in this country is such that even in the next 30 years, people are still talking about nascent democracy, stabilizing political parties, and the rest of them. Good enough, the APC stalwart, they talked about party supremacy. Do we really have party supremacy in this country? What you see is supremacy of those who can pay the piper. They will always continue to dictate the tune. If you are in power, the president becomes the leader of the political party. And by implication, his decision supersedes the decision of every other member of the party. At the state level, the governor that is also taken to be the leader of the political party at the state level, his decision almost supersedes the decision of every other political party member. And you discover when you ask, people tend to navigate towards the interests of these leaders because they have the resources to argue out their point. Not necessarily that what you are seeing is the decision of the majority or that the majority is so much like this. But what can you do in the face of the current development? And then they will tell you, we are adopting this to stabilize the party. Both APC and PDP are guilty of this development. And it is appalling that that Nigerians are continue to be deceived, because I call this thing deceit. When we come and tell you what these people are doing is wrong, they are not getting it right, and that is why we want to be in power, want to get it right. And then when you are given the opportunity like we are seeing currently, you go back to do the same thing you condemned and said is bad, and you continue to even do it worse than it used to be. And you tell me we are talking about stabilizing the political parties. No. We are simply talking about how those who pay the pipers will continue to dictate the tune and how their interests will continue to prevail upon the interests of the generality members of the political parties. That's why we are saying these things are wrong, and we need to re-strategize and redirect. Political parties need to have foundation. APC, for instance, for over 80 years, cannot boast of board of trustees, which is the conscience of the party. What is responsible? We can see good enough for this one, they have been able to manage the National Convention and produce members of the National Working Committee. But with this, the way they navigated this thing, will it move towards the party primaries when it begins to take place? And just like the stalwart they talked about, you see people, instead of now campaigning to gain the support of majority of party members, their interest will now be towards navigating to political bigwigs, those who are close to the corridors of power and whose consensus will transform to be the consensus of the party. And we see this thing, and they continue to pursue the argument as a way of stabilizing the party. To what extent and how long shall we continue to stabilize? At least if you say you are stabilizing something, we need to be seeing cumulative development in terms of this stability, so that you do one, we see 2 and 1 is standing. We now move to 3 and 1, 2 are still standing. But what you see is that they continue to move back and forth, using the same argument to deceive Nigerians that this is what is. But that's indeed not what it should be.
Is it possible?
Political parties not having manifestos. What you have are indeed manifestos of the candidates, and which is painted in the umbrella of the manifesto of the political party. And when the candidate emerges as a leader, even the party does not have the power, so to say, to caution him or her that you must move in this direction because that is the party philosophy. You see exactly the idiosyncrasies of the leader that so emerged, dictating the direction of the party, dictating the direction of those even selected or elected by the party, and all kinds of things continue to take place in the name of party stability.
Is it possible, Dr. Ogweze, that the consensus process can be made more transparent? I ask this question because it was not just at the national level alone that consensus was adopted. You saw zoning of political of the party offices at different levels, at zonal levels, regional levels, and then up to state levels. That's the micro-zoning arrangements, where in some cases it was the state governors, or in fact in most of the cases it was the state governors that were the ones putting forward the candidates from their states that should then serve in the National Working Committee. Is there a situation where this can be made more transparent, where the majority of party members can be brought in to play credible roles in the selection process?
Of course, it can be made better. And when it is made better, you discover that there is no need assembling 7,500 and something delegates from across the 36 states and the FCT in Abuja in the name of National Convention that you already have your anointed candidates. If parties want to make it more transparent and democratic, what I think they should do is this. You have different candidates who have shown interest, and that will make the process of National Convention much longer, because that is what it will result in getting the decision of members. Not necessarily the kind of thing we see for the president to reflect that he was not the one who took this decision. He consulted the governors elected under APC, consulted the members of the National Assembly, consulted other stakeholders of the party, leaving majority of party members outside this consensus arrangement. And at the end, they will project this as the decision of the party. What can happen to make it more transparent is, if indeed you want consensus to take place, the same way you conduct congresses at world level, local government, states, and the rest of them, then you can put forward your forms, and people will pick the forms. And then you start the consensus right even from the world level, where you present these candidates, and then majority of party members will take their decisions. You collect the decision, assume this one does not be the decision of the party, but given where they have voted, that this candidate enjoyed the majority. We push this thing forward from the ladder, and we continue to move it at that point, such that even before what they now call the National Convention is taken, you already know who is the candidate and who will possibly emerge, given the occurrences and the issues that have emanated from different wards, local government, states, and zones, and all kinds of things happening like that. So that you see this thing almost becoming a direct primary, so to say. Not necessarily where in order to manage varying interests and prevent implosion, that is also necessary, because in government and development, we are not afraid of conflict, for conflict is part of that which can initiate processes of change. Conflict is very wonderful, but the problem is that we always continue to view all these things. We are not talking about violent conflict. We are talking about conflict that will bring about constructive engagement and change. And then you begin to see people value these things. But in the system we operate, you see where one has a dissenting voice, for the very fact that he has a dissenting voice different from yours, he has already become opponent or enemy. And you tend to sideline him because this person is not my friend, just because he expressed his or her opinion. I think what we now need to do is to evolve this kind of process, so that whoever that will emerge as a consensus candidate, unquote, will be a product of majority of party members, so that you have tested your popularity and this is the much it can carry you. We see what is happening. Not where people will continue to pursue different kinds of debate. Some will come up and tell you, approaching the president, you should consider us because we came from CPC block, or we came from ANPP block, or we came from ACM block, or New PDP, or Fashion of Africa, and the rest of them. This is why you need to consider us, which means the bulk of the decision making is now brought upon the table of Mr. President. At any time he is dissatisfied with what you are doing, it's just expression of dissent may mean that the National Working Committee can even be dissolved. And you see the kind of things that will continue to happen and we'll move forward that way. If we must settle for consensus, we should begin the process, or if political parties must settle for consensus, they should begin the process right from the world level so that it wouldn't be necessary, given the prevailing circumstances in this country, to even move men and material in the name of having convention of 7,500 and something people when you already know those who are coming to validate their selection instead of so we save for ourselves the resources, save for ourselves the dangers of moving around, and then still have candidates that will emerge consensus but reflecting the general wishes of party members.
Okay, Mr. Seidu, you must have been one of the youngest aspirants to the chairmanship of the APC at that election. Do you think that what you have seen or what we saw during the weekend is likely to have some positive or negative impact on the presidential primary that is forthcoming? We know by the INEC timetable, your party should be preparing now for presidential primary either in May or April this year.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think what's happened in the last few days on our convention, it shows that the next lines of action, which is our party primary, is presidential primaries. We need to re-strategize on how to do it better because of the gladiators that are coming in and the kind of people that have shown interest in the race now. We have to properly manage it very well on how we can do about the process of a candidate to emerge in the presidential primaries. And all these things that I've seen, it shows that in the next few days or few weeks, we started seeing a lot of actions. In fact, it will heat up more than this party convention because gladiators have started saying that, okay, fine, if it's possible that it's going to be a convention, what's going to be my next line of action? Am I going to leave the party people alone and go back to the power players so that I can be able to maneuver my way? Secondly, people that are grassroots based and thinking that, okay, it's through the grassroots I can emerge as candidate of this party. Am I going to be shortchanged on this process of consensus? And that is why the new National Working Committee of this party have a great work to do ahead. And the leadership of the party entirely, both the president and the governors who are key stakeholders in this party, must sit down again and re-strategize so that we shouldn't face more challenges ahead. Because with what I see, is it possible to have a consensus arrangement from state governors people that have invested a lot of resources to contest for governors, and at the end of the day you've seen someone pick someone under consensus? Is it possible? Because those are the things that happens in likes of Zamfara and some states, and when we have some people go to court and they said the process is not right. You understand?
Well, what are your anticipations of what could possibly play out? There is a presidential primary. There will also be primaries for governors that will be, where the elections will be taking place same time or same period as the presidential election next year. There will also be senatorial. There will also be House of Representatives. There will also be state houses of assembly. Are you anticipating, for instance, that we could see another round of consensus arrangements to produce all these people, or that the party will move beyond consensus and go for other options, direct or indirect primaries, to pick?
I think what's my anticipation, it's clear. One is the party must be very careful about going to next round of consensus arrangement because of people that the key players that are coming to this. If you're contesting for a governor and you spend a lot of resources, and this consensus arrangement, you should know that you have to sign. You have to sign, you have to agree that I've lived for Mr. A or B. Now, when a governorship, we are in a governorship contest, and they said they let them opt.
That's what the electoral act provides.
Yes, and they said let them go for consensus, and there's none of your written documents that you've withdrawn for this Mr. A or B. You know, there's going to be problem. There are going to be elections, and that is why we must prepare for elections in the next coming primaries, because nobody, with what they have seen, people cannot agree on this. If you look at what's happened, a lot of people said intervention of Mr. President. A lot of people that came to step down and say intervention of Mr. President. It's now telling you that the president is not going to be in the states. And the state governors, some of them knows that if true should be told, they can control some of the people that gladiators have been in the race for the governorship now. Because you can't spend huge resources, galvanize looks and crannies of your state, and someone will sit down and say, okay, no, relax, right? That it can't work like that. That's why I said there's a lot of work for this National Working Committee to see how they can be able to strategize effectively to make sure that this our party could go beyond 20. And with this level of development, they started strategizing ahead. Because now, the presidential primaries, I've seen that the consensus will be the second option because of the gladiators I've seen in the race. Because no one will shift ground. At this level, I'm seeing a lot of heat campaign that is going, a lot of people that are pumping up, except another presidential intervention. And the president, that is how the president will now see that, no, this is a real one now. The other one is you are a member of the party, is within the party things. And even this one is within the party, but it's going to be a very very strong decision for the president to wade in with some of the people that we've seen now. Because anybody that is shortchanged, if anybody that has withdrawn, you should know that that's the end of the game for him for 2023. He should go and plan for another election. And that is why the gladiators now have to start. I've seen a lot of game plan in the next few weeks in the electoral process.
Dr. Ogweze, 2023 is the next target for politicians generally. And the presidential primaries, the governorship primaries, the senatorial primaries, the House of Representatives, and State House of Assembly elections. Those who want to contest in 2023 will necessarily now put themselves up. Do you see consensus working in this regard?
That's what we are talking about, the kind of consensus people produce. You know, for this time around, especially with regard to APC's recently concluded National Convention, you know, this is not the last fight as far as 2023 politics is concerned. And that is why you might be seeing the pin piece of the graveyard that might be in existence. Politicians are moving their next line to primary election. But I tell you, it will not be like this one. Like identified. You can see when one commits a huge lot of resources, you tend to bog them into consensus kind of arrangement where it is just your interest that is the consensus that is being projected. I see having consensus in the, of course, that will still be the major option most of these big wigs will opt for. Let's have consensus. Let's have consensus. And they will begin to promise people all kinds of things, including those who may be requested to step down for others. At national level, they will be promised all kinds of things, how you will be minister of this and minister of that. At the state level, how you will be commissioner of this or how you will be head of this one or that one. And then where they even begin to partition and share the booties of power even before the power is secured. In the forthcoming primaries, it cuts across all the political parties. I know they will all continue to opt for consensus, but in their own interest. And I think this was the mind of the legislators when they were trying to remove the consensus arrangement and then the indirect primary arrangement. What called the monus legislatoris? So sometimes we just begin to look at the words of the laws, how they appear. But I know the idea is that even if you go for indirect primary, you simply see that the big wigs at the state level, if it happens to be where the party is producing the governor, the party in power, you see the governor tilting towards, if it is indirect primary. The indirect primary, you see the delegates that will convene at different fora to select or choose who the party will be. They already have the mandate given to them by the leader. If it's at the national level, the president. If it's at the state level, the governor. It cuts across the political parties. And I do see that, indeed, this one is indirect party primary, but indirect election, but that is not the reflection of the wishes of the people. Or you now see where they are talking about the consensus candidate. Whose candidate will end up being that consensus candidate? See, the candidate of the leader. And because he's at the center of sharing the resources, others will be tempted to follow. But this time around, when one is convinced that he has the support of followers and feels that he has been sustained in the name of consensus arrangement, you simply see the person withdrawing and moving to other political parties where they continue to search for greener pastures and search and test their popularity. And you will likely see how such will not augur well for political parties, including those holding power. Or you see a situation where out of compulsion, the person has been forced to agree with consensus arrangement, but maybe on the ground now working against the interests of the party if he has been prevented from physically or visibly moving according to his interests. We have seen that in the past.
All right, Dr. Ogweze, let's leave it at that for now. Dr. Michael Ogweze, Senior Lecturer, Department of Political Science at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you very much.
And back here in the studio, Mr. Mohammed Seidu Esu is a former national chairmanship aspirant of the All Progressives Congress. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for
very
sharing
much.
your time with us today.
Thank you very much for having
and
me.
to have viewers who are out there, thank you so much for investing your time with us. We'll see you again when we bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power. Bye for now.